Information fueled.
Opinion driven.
This is Nashville's Morning News with Dan Mandis.
And so, my fellow Americans,
we talk news.
5:06, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Good morning to you, friends. How are you? Welcome on into your Thursday. I'll go ahead and say it, Friday Eve. Don't tell Murphy I said that. It is February 6th, and man, do we have a lot of news. And I got to fit in not only today's news, but yesterday's news as well, because I was gone. So we have a lot to talk about. The Democrats, really fascinating. I keep wanting to ask this question. What is it that they're trying to hide with this whole USAID thing? I love that Peter Doocy asked this question yesterday of Caroline Levitt.
Are any officials here preparing to fight Democratic lawmakers in the streets?
I mean, yeah, it's been a crazy couple of days since all of this started, and the extent to which Democrats are fighting Donald Trump and Elon Musk and Doge.
Some elected Democrats are so steamed about Doge. Congresswoman LaMonica McIver says we are at war. Ilhan Omar says we might actually see somebody get killed. And Chris Van Hollen says we have to fight this in the Congress. We have to fight this in the streets. So what now?
I mean, it's crazy to the extent that these insane Democrats, everywhere you go in Washington, D.C., every time you tune into MSNBC or CNN, there's these Democrats, and the level of hysteria is absolutely insane. And it does seem like Doge and Elon Musk, that is their red line. But here's the thing that I'm noticing. Instead of defending the expenditures that we've all been talking about, right? They simply want to scream. They simply want to yell. They simply want to threaten. And here's the thing. They can't defend $70,000 that they spent on a DEI musical in Ireland. I mean, remember, Hakeem Jeffries, can you defend that?
We are going to fight it legislatively.
Oh.
We are going to fight it in the courts. And we're going to fight it in the streets.
Okay, so I guess Hakeem Jeffries cannot defend $70,000 spent on a DEI musical in Ireland. You've got the ever so charming Jasmine Crockett. So I would ask Jasmine Crockett, can you defend $2 million for a transgender comic book in Peru? Jasmine, can you defend that?
We are going to be in your face. We are going to be on your asses. And we are going to make sure. We're going to make sure you understand what democracy looks like.
So I guess she can't defend the $2 million for transgender comic books in Peru. Elizabeth Warren, let's try Elizabeth Warren. Can you defend $20 million for Sesame Street being produced in Iraq? Can you please explain that?
No one elected Elon Musk to nothing.
Oh.
That's right.
Okay.
Not one Democrat in America voted for Elon Musk.
Not one.
So, not one. Mm-mm.
You got to warn me next time you put Elizabeth Warren on.
So I'm not sure if you're noticing this trend, but Jasmine Crockett, Elizabeth Warren, Hakeem Jeffries, and all these other Democrats, they refuse to explain or defend the expenditures. They just think that the louder that they scream, the more people are going to pay attention to that, as opposed to what it is that they spent this money on through USAID. And I would say, just because you folks scream really loudly doesn't mean that you're explaining what you spent our taxpayer money on. You're not giving us the reasons why you thought that it would be a good idea to spend $47,000 on a transgender opera in Colombia. Maxine Waters, can you be the voice of reason?
This is not Elon Musk's country. This is not Trump's country. This is our country. He is a low-down, dirty, no good person along with Trump that cannot be trusted.
So apparently no. Apparently Maxine Waters also cannot defend these expenditures. So, and it's interesting too, because part of what you just heard her say, old Auntie Maxine, was Elon Musk cannot be trusted. And I would ask this question of any Democrat right now. You're the ones who are spending all this money on stuff that the American people would never, ever approve of. I would like to see somebody take a clipboard. You know when you used to go to the mall and you'd have people with clipboards and they'd ask you questions? I want somebody, if they want to put their lives in their hands, if they want to, on the line, if they want to go down to Washington, D.C., or really any Democrat enclave and say, okay, so we've got $20 million. Would you approve of us spending that $20 million to produce Sesame Street in Iraq? I guarantee you, and I'm saying, do this in a Democrat-run city. No one would say that that's okay. Yet Maxine Waters, old Auntie Maxine, is saying that Elon Musk is the one that can't be trusted. Got it. Now we hear that the Democrats in the House Oversight Committee are trying to apparently subpoena Elon Musk. And I'm not entirely certain why, except to target him in some sort of a lawfare scheme. I'd be willing to bet that that's part of it. So clearly what they're trying to do is they're trying to shoot the messenger and hide his message. But the message is really important. And the American people do need to know exactly where the money is going. And here's why this is so important. And here's why the Republicans cannot stop. And here's why it is really important to continue to play all of these screaming hyenas, these Democrats, not answering the questions as to why they spent this money on such ridiculous things. But I think it's really important because we do have the midterms coming up in a couple of years, right? And so the Republicans have to keep banging this drum because the American people need to be reminded daily as to what the Democrats stand for. And this is clearly what they stand for. And that's why they want to shoot the messenger and try and scream and yell because they want to drown out the message that they have been wasting our taxpayer dollars on stupidity. So apparently in the House Oversight Committee meeting yesterday, the Democrats were, pitching their fit. You're hearing it right now. And they were pitching their fit. And Tim Burchett, of course, we all know Tim Burchett, Congressman Tim Burchett. He was there and he released one of his videos.
Dadgum, if I can go to Columbia and see a taxpayer-funded transgender opera, what the heck is this world coming to? Look, you're seeing all the fifths being thrown on this stuff, and you should follow the dadgum money because always they have a family member or a friend or I'd like to say a wife and or girlfriend that's drawing a check from one of these bogus organizations. You don't spend $60 million eradicating rats. It goes somewhere in somebody's pocket. We just got to start paying better attention.
Well, you know what, Tim Burchett, Congressman Tim Burchett says follow the money. You know who's been trying to follow the money? Joni Ernst, the senator, has been trying to follow the money, and she talked about how transparency has not exactly been forthcoming with USAID. At Supertalk 99.7 WTN, USAID, and all that has exposed. And part of the conversation, of course, as I've been mentioning, is this lack of transparency. You have the Democrats trying to do everything they possibly can to prevent Elon Musk from really getting in there and digging around. And honestly, I do believe that it's too late. But Senator Joni Ernst was on Fox News, and she says that, yeah, I've been trying to get a hold of USAID and exactly where this money is going for a long time now. Trying to hold them accountable for years. In particular, the war in Ukraine. Now, you know that we've spent billions of dollars, taxpayer dollars, on the war in Ukraine. And one of the things that conservatives have been saying, including yours truly, is we don't know where this money is going. We don't know what the money's being used for. It's just every time you turn around, Biden was giving another, 100 million or billions of dollars going to Ukraine, and nobody really knew where it was going. And so Joni Ernst was asking the question.
For years now, going back several years, where I was trying to investigate the expenditures for humanitarian aid, primarily when it came to the war in Ukraine. And what my team and I encountered was absolute obstruction and lies coming out of USAID. They did everything possible to stop me from accessing their records to understand where our taxpayer money was going.
Yeah, and guess what? They never actually gave Joni Ernst the information. Remember what we've been, again, saying all along, the billions to Ukraine, where does that money go? And are there kickbacks going right back to the Democrat Party? That was the big question that we asked a long time ago right here on Nashville's Morning News. And to be perfectly honest, the fact checkers, no, there's no evidence that that's happening. Really? Well, maybe the reason why there's, and I'm air quoting here, no evidence is because they won't give Joni Ernst or any other Republican or Democrat, whoever, the information that they need to be able to track the money that's going through USAID. And it's kind of funny, though, because they talk about how Elon's people showing up at the USAID offices, and they started hiding stuff. They started hiding like their gay pride flags. They started hiding their books because Elon's people show up at their offices. And so they started hiding anything that they thought that they felt would be incriminating. Now, here's what Donald Trump said. And by the way, if you're hiding stuff, it means that you do have something to hide. This is what Donald Trump said.
Look at all the fraud that he's found in this USAID. It's a disaster what the people, radical left lunatics, they have things that nobody would have even believed. The whole thing with $100 million spent on you know what, with money going to all sorts of groups that shouldn't deserve to get any money, with the money. I'd like to see what the kickbacks are. How much money has been kicked back? Who would spend that kind of money to some of the things that you read about and I read about and I see every night in the news and every morning when I read the papers? Who would spend money for that? I would say this, the people that got all that money, are they kicking it back to the people that gave it from government?
That's what everybody wants to know. And now we're seeing posts on the socials that USAID, I don't know if this is true. I'm just telling you. But apparently they're saying that USAID gave millions, some say even billions of dollars to the Clinton Foundation and Chelsea Clinton. So we'll see as the investigation does continue. But coming up, remember where we started, the original question.
Are any officials here preparing to fight Democratic lawmakers in the streets?
So I love what Caroline Levitt said in response to that question. That audio is straight ahead right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN 527. Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. All right, so back to the original question from Peter Ducey.
Are any officials here preparing to fight Democratic lawmakers in the streets?
So Caroline Leavitt, I love what she had to say with all of this because she puts the Democrats right in their place.
May I just point out, if you heard that type of violent, enticing rhetoric from our side of the aisle, from Republican leaders on Capitol Hill, I think there would be a lot more outrage in this room today. It's unacceptable, the comments that have been made by these Democrat leaders, and frankly, they don't even know what they're talking about. Because President Trump was elected with a mandate from the American people to make this government more efficient. Mm-hmm. He campaigned across this country with Elon Musk, vowing that Elon was going to head up the Department of Government Efficiency, and the two of them, with a great team around them, were going to look at the receipts of this federal government and ensure it's accountable to American taxpayers. That's all that is happening here. And for Democrat officials to incite violence and encourage Americans to take to the streets is incredibly alarming, and they should be held accountable for that rhetoric.
Absolutely. And she's right. You know, a lot of these Democrats, Caroline Leavitt there, a lot of these Democrats are screaming that Elon isn't an elected official. But as she said, Trump said, and he campaigned on this, that he was going to do this. And elections do have consequences. Enter J.D. Vance.
And we're going to fight it in the streets.
For Hakeem Jeffries to go out and say that you need to fight in the streets, it's dangerous, it's disgraceful rhetoric, and it's not at all what the American people ask. I think if you went to Hakeem Jeffries' district and took the people that voted against President Trump, not even the people who voted for him, the people who voted against President Trump, do you want a congressional Democratic leadership that fights in the streets or that makes your life better? Most people think the government exists to make their life better, not show up on TV, criticize the president, and not actually get anything done.
And remember the point of this whole monologue. The reason why the Democrats are screaming and yelling about Elon Musk is because they simply cannot defend what USAID has been paying for.